as being one of the stronger junglers out there right now.
Yeah, for sure, and we saw in game number 2 of British Tea Time against Absolute Legends the impact that Twisted Fate had on the game. They pretty much managed to pick up a triple kill in the top lane, go 3 for 0, and end up snowballing the game away from them with that Twisted Fate. So obviously that is why he's banned out there. As you said, Javan has been the first pickup. Just to remind you guys, I'm commentating from the stream just for the picks and bans phase, so I'll be a little bit behind what the picks and bans are happening, but that's only because we have so many spectators for our different streams that it's impossible for me to get into the 2 slots in the picks and bans phase.
Yeah, indeed. And once we get into the game, of course, Stress will be casting from the friends list. There will be no delay for him. You do have the Ezreal and Ahri pick up here for Tricked. So we did see yesterday that Jez's was amazingly strong with Ahri. Similar to Cook My Sock, he's in that kind of bracket of Ahri players. So they haven't banned her out. It's going to be picked up straight away, right off the bat. Potential Shaco pick coming in here from Kazmich, and important to actually mention that Kazmich is a substitute for Mithy today. So they are going to be substituting Kazmich in, and if, I was told from our producer, if HeimerdingersCollosi do get through to the finals, I believe that they will be subbing out Extinct tomorrow. So constant lineup changes throughout the Challenger Series.
Now, the question is, does Extinct know that? Although we hope he does, otherwise Scumbag Vince has just let that win slip. Oh well.
We'll by the way, exactly. He's in the place.
We'll see what gets locked in, but as you can see, Niels has taken that Ezreal, and we saw, I believe, Tricked play this kind of composition yesterday, or pretty much every team played a very similar composition to this. We had 4 games that were pretty much Ezreal and Ahri all day, so I apologise if my memory is slightly lacking on that one. But Ezreal and Ahri fairly strong right now. We've seen Cook My Sock play a hell of a lot of Ahri, so we'll see exactly how Tricked can play it this time. Lock-ins over this other side for HeimerdingersCollosi are going to be Caitlyn and Diana, and we've seen Diana a fair amount today. First time today, I think, for Caitlyn.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't actually catch the first game, so I can't say 100%, but out of the games I have seen, she hasn't been picked up. Ezreal, well, we've seen him time and time again. The blue build Ezreal is really coming to prominence here. Alongside Nautilus, 2 very, very frequently picked champions. They are hovering over the Janna at the moment. So Janna against Diana and Jarvan is a pretty good pick. It's a disengaged champion. The Howling Gale and Monsoon will just push back enemies. So with 6 seconds to go, perhaps we are going to see a Janna, but so far so good for both teams. You know, both looking pretty strong lineups here.
Yeah, they are, and definitely that Nautilus pickup, again, I kind of feel like a bit of a parrot with all of these team compositions in every game that we've had for the past week and a half have all been so similar that there's only so much information you can give on certain champions, and yeah, Nautilus had that shield buff that I've talked about 10 times, so yeah, Nautilus a very strong pickup out of the jungle, and we'll see exactly where HeimerdingersCollosi go from here.
As you say, I mean, there's only so much that you can say about the characters. We have had Nautilus. I would love to get a stat sheet going where it's like percentage of picks, and I would imagine Nautilus is somewhere at 80% or above. Ezreal probably in the same category. Also Ahri, because Ahri's been played a hell of a lot from British Tea Time, now Tricked as well. We do have a Lulu and a Rumble pickup for HeimerdingersCollosi, so we are going into that 5th all-important final pick of the picks and bans. And Jez is hovering over the Kha'Zix, so that would probably be, I would imagine, Kha'Zix at top of its locked in. However, they have changed it over towards Jace. Jace more of a standard staple top laner, I guess you could say. Also a top laner that can go in 1v2, so do you think that if Jace is locked in, they'll try the 1v2 switch up?
They may very well do. I think we said this again yesterday with Jace, because he can be in cannon form very efficient for being in those 1v2s. Also gives him a lot of poke. There's quite a lot in this lineup, and as you said, Jace looks like he's going to be going up the top. We have seen him played mid in a couple of games. Ahri, though, is obviously going to be playing in that mid lane right now, and we'll see where the summoners end up too, because you can kind of take a teleport in these types of compositions if you feel that you need that extra mobility around the map. But Tricked have got a fair amount of mobility as it is. Ahri is going to be able to move around the map very quickly, so is Ezreal and Nautilus as well. So there's 2 very different team compositions set up here, with the AoE focus coming from HeimerdingersCollosi as well.
Yeah, and you have quite a lot of poke damage and disengage. So we've seen this a lot throughout the tournaments as well, where you have kind of two compositions in one. You have the poke from both Jace and Ezreal, and then also obviously the Orb of Deception from Ari as well, just chucking out, trying to land something with the charm every now and again. But then if things do get a bit too hairy, you have the Monsoon from Janna, the Depth Charge, and all the CC that comes across from Trashy's Nautilus, and that's going to be very difficult to hop in on. You do have a lot of AoE though. This is definitely an AoE centric composition from HeimerdingersCollosi because the Cataclysm is going to lock down players, and then you're going to have the Equalizer popped on top of it instantly. But that being said, it's very, very difficult to keep a slippery Ezreal down from the Cataclysm because he will just Arcane Shift right out of there.
Yeah, nothing worse than a slippery Ezreal. Anyway, guys, we're going to go to a very quick break here. We'll be back in just a few minutes with game number 1 between HeimerdingersCollosi and tRICKED here on Kaostv. Hello everybody and welcome back to the EUW Challenger Series number 4. We are in the semi-finals, our second semi-final in fact. I am Dignitas Stress. I'm joined today once again by Metas, and we are going very quickly towards HeimerdingersCollosi versus tRICKED game number 1. Just about to finish the loading screen, and some very different team setups coming into this game, Metas.
Yeah, as you say, we haven't had a great deal of Caitlyn. Other than that, though, a lot of the champions do remain quite similar. As you said, we are on the loading screen at the moment. You've got an AoE-centric lineup here for HeimerdingersCollosi with a poke/disengage comp coming in from tRICKED Esports. But you should watch out for Jez's charms, because in the last game that we saw him, which was yesterday, he was landing them plentiful. So that could kind of be the engage they need. If they can catch out the AD or AP carries with a charm, watch out for Nautilus jumping right in there and all the damage following up. I'm still on the loading screen here, Stress, are you?
I am as well. Maybe we had a player need to disconnect or something during the loading screen. That can generally be why you're not quite loaded in yet. For those of you that may be a little bit confused, Rumble, also known in this game as JB, is actually Yamato Cannon. So Yamato Cannon is alongside Maluno, Freeze, Kazmich, and Extinct for the side of HeimerdingersCollosi. It is just a Smurf, which is probably why it's gold as well. Something tells me that Yamato Cannon is a little bit higher than Gold League.
Yeah, just a tiny bit higher than that, seeing as the rest of his team were Diamond last season. That would be quite a strange fit. But either way, we are into the game right now, and we have a pause. Awesome.
I love that. We're into the... Oh, no, we're not.
No, we're
the
not.
game's still not pausing. But it does give myself and production, and hopefully you as well, Vince, the ability to change our scoreboards and not get very confused while trying to look while doing it. I think that might be why they do that for us, just instantly pause.
Yeah, it's like a service, you know? They're like, hey, the casters need some time to change stuff around. We'll pause for them, good guy players. Although they are talking about how buggy the client is, so... possibly more to do with the buggy client than allowing us to switch over, but I'm actually going to do that right now, because I'd forgot Stress before you mentioned anything.
Well, I mean, at least I'm here for something, eh, Metas, you know? Nevertheless, as I said, yeah, we are going into game number 1 as soon as this pause, as soon as it unpauses. Blue build Ezreal is, again, what we're going to expect, and I feel like we're saying that in every single game. Thank you very much to, the guys that looked at that build. I believe it was Bebe was one of the first people that implemented that build, and people in chat are also commenting, and something I was about to come over to was the fact that Jace has got Biscuit, the total Biscuit of Rejuvenation in this game, so something a little bit different to what we normally would see from a Jace. And we did get a disconnect, and now people are starting to move around. Okay, there's the reconnect. I was a little bit confused about what exactly was going on in this one, but does that mean you've got your score screen all fixed now, Vince?
I do have it fixed, but I am a little confused, because has it unpaused for you? I'm still on the pause screen here.
It did very briefly. I'm not sure why.
Strange. Okay, well, talking about the Biscuit, I've played a lot of Jace myself, and he's very mana hungry, especially before he gets the Tear of the Goddess and of course upgrades that into the Mana Moon. And we do have the reconnect here from Neil, so hopefully we'll get this game unpaused as soon as possible. So I'm interested to see what he's going to start with. A lot of Jaces will start with the Fairy Charm, 5 health pots, maybe a mana pot or 2, and of course the ward. So I'm interested to see here how Nezralas will go ahead with this one. We do have the readies and the yeses. Apparently he was waiting and his laptop is good. So we are going to have the unpaused Stress. We're going to be jumping into game number 1.
Yeah, I realized what it was. I actually clicked on the time bar and it went back in time. So I invented the time machine here at the beginning of game 1 and unfortunately have lost all use of it. So no curing disease through time travel in this game. You can see that Jace, as you said, you're expecting him to pick up some sort of mana pots and also health pots with that Fairy Charm as well. So that's what he's going for. Standard jungle starts with the Hunter's Machete and the pots out of both junglers. Nothing out of the ordinary, really, in this game by the looks of it.
Yeah, Jace, what I was expecting there, the Total Biscuit is basically just to allow him to maybe be a bit more aggressive, to get in the face of, you'd have to assume it's going to be Rumble here he's going to be facing off against. We have seen some Rumbles going mid as well, so we will have a quick watch out for that. Extinct is HeimerdingersCollosi's mid player, and he does have Diana, so I would assume it's going to be Diana mid. But either way, you do actually have HeimerdingersCollosi moving into the opposition jungle, now going to pull themselves back. Lots of pings, and doesn't look like we're going to have any action kicking off as of yet, Stress. So, looks like the junglers are going to resume their roles on their blue buffs or red buffs and just going to kick this one off standard.
Yep, very standard starts out of both teams, although something a little bit surprising. This pink ward up in the top river there's a top bush around mid is something that you wouldn't quite normally see out of a team, and I believe that's where Rumble might have actually placed it. He started cloth armor, a health potion. Looks like he might have started a pink ward as well, if I'm just trying to add the gold up all in my head. So making sure there's no vision through that bush, so we may end up seeing some shenanigans there, or maybe it was a scouted ward that tRICKED played yesterday. So, that's a little bit of an intriguing thing to start off, but as we are growing so accustomed to having on the red side, AD carry and support are headed up into that top lane.
Which would also be another reason why he may have picked up the Total Biscuit Rejuvenation, because he knew he'd be going into 1v2 lane, and it's just a bit of extra sustain. Also, Rumble clearly was feeling the same way, didn't actually buy a ward, just 5 pots and the cloth armor, as he mentioned before. So it looks like both the top laners here called exactly what was going to happen before it actually happened.
Oh, sorry, he has got 5 wards. My spectator client doesn't have the 5 on it. Maybe that's something they changed when they changed the maximum pot. Sorry about that, guys. I'm a little bit confused there. Sorry, must be my old age.
No worries, dude. You've still got a while to catch up with me. It doesn't get any easier. But we are going to have Rumble pushing up towards top lane here, as we expected. Niels and Elocrats are going to be basically just spamming across with the Qs, the Mystic shots. You've got, of course, Diana against the Ahri in mid. Jez's had a wonderful game yesterday, but let's see if he can rinse and repeat. Nautilus is moving towards top lane here, as is Maluno on Jarvan, so we could see a very, very early mini skirmish kicking off here. There is no ward down for Rumble, as I mentioned previously. He had no wards from the get-go, but Nautilus looking to come around from the back here, so maybe going for a dive early on, Stress.
Yeah, he's looking to hit a dredge line. Maluno's been taken quite low, actually. He's going to show himself into lane, but with those minions in front of him, he can't quite get that dredge line over onto Maluno or Yamato Cannon, and he's still looking for it, but with no minion wave, I don't think a 2v1, regardless of how low Maluno is, that I don't think would go in favor of tRICKED. Now that Maluno's recalled out, though, Rumble's in a little bit of a precarious position as this next wave pushes, and you can see that already Extinct is coming across to the top lane to try and help hold it.
Yeah, and obviously because Nautilus knew that Maluno went back to spawn to recall, he can afford to be up here for longer and just to be a presence, because he knows that Jarvan isn't escalating ahead of him in levels. He knows Jarvan's more than likely coming back up towards top again. Trashy has fallen a level behind so far, so still has fallen by just a tiny bit. They're going to be harassing this tower now. A 3 versus 2 situation. Jarvan's going to be jumping in here on towards Elocrats, doing a lot of damage. The Ignite's been popped as well, I believe, from Rumble. Maybe slightly premature, just pushing her back, but not going to be able to finalize the kill.
Yeah, now Niels and the Elocrats are just trying to keep on top of their CS. And Caitlyn is a pretty difficult champion to out CS, especially when you're doing this kind of lane swap. She's going to be able to just farm down the wave from afar, use that Piltover Peacemaker to shove through the wave as well. So you can see there's already a very, very slight lead for Caitlyn down in that bottom lane. Jace, however, doesn't seem to be farming as well as you'd expect, and they've actually lost the tower down in that bottom lane. There's a lot of pressure has come out, and Ezreal is forced away from his tower already, so that's just shows you the strength of that Caitlyn lane.
Yeah, Caitlyn and Lulu are kings of poke. It's so difficult to lane against them, especially in the 1v2 lane. So you're going to have Caitlyn recalling at the moment. I'm going to keep an eye on top lane because it is fairly low itself. About 500 health. Rumble's going back in again. Janet takes a tower shot there, forced to flash away, as Rumble will go into the danger zone. So Janna's forced the flash, but the ignite, had it have been up there, Stress, I feel that would have been first blood.
Yeah, almost definitely. I mean, you saw the flash come out of Yamato Cannon, tried to land that Electro Harpoon, but it just went past the side of EUW, so not quite able to connect with it, but that does hold his lane for ever so slightly longer and gives enough time for Caitlyn and Lulu to join him up in that top lane. So Jace gets a little moment of free farm, but again, Rumble's farming at pretty much the same rate here.
But, Rumble's fortitude there in the top lane is going to keep the tower alive. And now you're going to have Caitlyn and Lulu reassuming their position against their counterparts without the tower down. So you have to say, overall, it's looking very good right now from the beginning for HeimerdingersCollosi. In fact, managing to put down some pain onto the opposition tower. So looking very good for them. Nautilus is coming towards top lane, so we could have a 3v3 fairly shortly, although Ezreal is lagging behind slightly. So they're just going to try and keep this tower up. But looking good. Rumble can now recall and go back to bot lane and get some farm against the Jace, who has no sanctuary of his tower alive anymore. So once he pushes past the river, Jace is going to be very, very vulnerable to attack.
Yeah, you can see as well, though, Extinct is trying to put out as much pressure on this as he can. He's letting the lane reset. I thought he was going to try and take Wraiths there, actually, but maybe he's just waiting to see where the Nautilus crossed through the jungle. Extinct does have himself a very small CS lead, but he has gone back, whereas Ahri has not. Ahri on about 1,500 gold, so waiting to go back and pick up some extra items here. Has hit 6 as well, so expect Ahri to start roaming fairly soon.
Nezreal is doing a really nice job of freezing the lane though, so he's not going to be pushing this lane, just going to be getting as much farm as he possibly can. Extinct is in the bush right now. Here comes Nautilus from the side. Ahri is going to be from the tower here, but Trashy forced the flash. He can't stand toe-to-toe with the Diana, who's 2 levels above him, and this is going to allow HeimerdingersCollosi to come in and basically just steal blue from under Nautilus's nose, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Yep, and that's going to be not, well, I don't want to say it's not important at all, but with this amount of pressure around the map, I don't think that is exactly going to be the most pressing issue on his mind right now. They need to try and get a tower down for themselves, so it's a minor inconvenience, I would have thought. Ahri would like that blue, but if she can start roaming and start putting her impact on the map as well, I think that they can pretty much make up for that lack of blue. Again, she hasn't gone back yet, so might struggle with mana for the meantime, but next time she recalls, there won't be any kind of problems like that.
Yeah, Nautilus hasn't hit 6 at the moment. He is going to try and take these double golems. Of course, once he hits 6, he'll have depth charge. He still hasn't managed to get to that all-important 6 mark. There is a ward down in the bush he was stood next to, so he's going to be pulling himself back, desperately trying to hit ultimate level here. So he's going to be going and taking the Wraiths. And meanwhile, you do have some pings going down towards bot lane. Diana is moving down on Nezreal, but's walking over a ward. So Nezreal has finally pushed the creep wave past the river, and now basically can't do a great deal. If he pushes past too far, he may very well die. Having said that, though, there's no one actually near to him from HeimerdingersCollosi. He's pretty much free to farm.
Yeah, and you can see that Nezreal right now has gone back, got himself that Tear of the Goddess alongside a Longsword and that Doran's Blade. So, you know, he's building towards his mid-game items now. He did have himself somewhat of a CS lead, but Rumble, with that Flame Splitter, has pretty much just been burning through that wave and making it a little bit closer. There is somewhat of a disparity in the mid lane. Diana sat up at 84 CS to the 69 of Ahri, and Ahri still hasn't gone back yet, which is something that when you're getting up to around 70 CS, you're carrying quite a lot of gold. 2,100, about to breach 2,200 gold on her person right now. And while it's not always necessary, she's being engaged on by Diana, and you can see she's just doing no damage in return. And now I think Jez's might get the idea and recall back. True Shot Barrage was used up in the top lane. Trashy trying to catch on with this nice 90 caliber net is going to avoid the dredge line, but Freeze has to be careful. Here comes the depth charge. Dodges the tornado as well. Can Freeze manage to get out of that? Ultimate from Lulu is going to knock her up, whereas Nezreal down in the bottom lane is going to get caught out by Maluno and Yamato Cannon. So good escapes up in the top lane with a lot of pressure down in the bottom lane from HeimerdingersCollosi.
Global pressure, man. It's all about the global pressure. As I said, though, if Nezreal gets a bit too far away from the sanctuary of that second tier tower, he will be falling. It's exactly what happens. Maluno Predatorial just goes down to bot lane, picks up ultimately the free kill there, and will actually get the first blood himself. So looking very good. You're talking before about the mid lane. Yeah, when Diana jumped in on Ahri, she had 2 Doran's rings to absolutely nothing. So had like plus 160 health and plus 30 ability power. Will be jumping back on towards Jez's, who has picked up a Negatron Cloak and a blasting one. So that is going to mitigate some of the damage that Diana's throwing out there, and will keep Jez's alive for now. Meanwhile at top, more poke, and their tower still hasn't fallen.
Yeah, but they're under a lot of pressure up in this top lane. You can see that Trashy has had to come up to the top lane a fair amount. Hasn't really been able to focus all that much on the bottom lane, so that really ended up opening up that bot lane for that kill. Rumble and Jace, though, still quite even on CS, and let's have a look at the difference in gold. There is a difference in 400 gold. There was, of course, that assist and the tower in favor of HeimerdingersCollosi. Niels, however, trying to do as much as he can to keep up in CS to Caitlyn, 102 to the 88. Not all that big of a gap, but any kind of small advantages we've seen teams, end up taking hold of and ripping open, and turning them into a much larger advantage.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at Jace here because he is 7 CS ahead of Rumble, but Rumble, of course, does have the global gold from the tower going down, plus the assist in his back pocket, and Jace will want to buy kind of bluish items similar to an Ezreal. He wants the Muramana, he wants the Last Whisper, that kind of stuff. He is going to be going one-on-one against Yamato Cannon here, doing a nice amount of damage, but he's now maybe going to have to turn and run. The Equalizer goes down, the Ignite as well, his life is ticking away, and here comes Meluno from the side. He's not long for this world. The Danger Zone goes in, Rumble will get the additional damage on the Flame Spitter and pick that one up for himself. So Nesralas's woes continue, 2 deaths on the board, both going to the Jace.
Yeah, and you can see that Meluno came in there just to pick it up. Sorry, I thought you were trying to say 2 kills going to Jace. My mind is a little bit confused there. Yeah, but you can see Meluno came in for the assist right towards the end there, and that's allowed them to focus their efforts now onto Dragon. It does have a ping ward on it as well, so they know there's no vision there for Tricked. And again, a lot of focus on this top lane from Trashy. He's coming all the way up. They're trying to stop this tower going down. It does only have just over 500 health left on it, so not all that much left. Trashy trying to hold on to that as desperately as they can. Dredgeline's going to go straight through the 2 of them, so no rubber duck on a stick hook there for Nautilus. Sorry, for some reason my mind defaulted to a British summer fete. I guess it has been a nice day here in Swansea. I must just be thinking of the sun.
Oh, what lovely imagery you brought up there, and it's not so lovely for Nesralas, who's being tower dove, 3rd kill consecutively, this time going to Diana, so he's being shared around. 1 kill to Diana, 1 kill to Rumble, 1 kill to Joven, all courtesy of the all-loving Nesralas, and they're really neutralizing him now, Stress. There's not a great deal he can do. He can't even go back to his tower in safety.
Yeah, it's becoming a little bit of a problem because he's going to try and farm as much with that Shock Blast, but every time he fires that into a wave, it chunks so much health off the minions that it just pushes the wave. And it just becomes a problem because then he has to follow it to try and keep up in CS. Ends up overextending, and right now he's not got a lot to keep him alive. Vampiric Scepter's not going to do all that much because he's only going to get that small amount of health back, whereas you look at Rumble, he's got that Seeker's Arm Guard, has himself a Doran's Shield, and the Haunting Guys, all of which are going to end up allowing him to be more tanky in those exchanges, so not going all that well for Nesralas.
And indeed, not all that well for Tricked Esports. The switch-up paying dividends here for HeimerdingersCollosi have managed to take down their 2nd tower, so that's 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom for them. Also, you say about the Shock Blast, there's a lot of AoE damage, as does his To the Skies, which is his Q when he switches over forms. When he goes into melee, that will do AoE damage too. So it's quite difficult for Jace to farm, unless, of course, he is just going to pop out and do auto attacks and nothing else, without pushing the lane. He's picked up a Vampiric Scepter. On the flip side, you do have Rumble with a Haunting Guise and a Seeker's Arm Guard. So Rumble looking quite a lot stronger now. Mid tower is also going to fall, so that's 3-0. Diana jumping on towards Trashy, doing a lot of damage, 5 levels above Trashy right now. That is scary. Diana, 147 CS to Ahri's 119.
Yeah, and every third attack she's going to do is going to add about 220 extra magic damage on the top. So I always like to keep a track of how much that Diana passive is doing. It gives you an idea of how fast she can end up ripping through a turret. Very, very efficient at split pushing, and you saw her end up taking that down. 50 CS ahead of Ahri in lane. Ahri does now have the Abyssal Scepter, so that's going to give her a little bit more damage, a bit more survivability in the one-on-one exchanges with Diana, but Nezreal finds himself a little far out in lane. Equalizer and the Caressing Strike. There's the Lunar Rush, and another kill onto Jace, and I mean, it kind of, I feel a little bit sorry for Nezreal right now. It's not like he's feeding in the sense that it's his fault all the time. He's been put in a position where he has to try and do something to keep up. And every time he goes out past his tower, HeimerdingersCollosi are just picking up on it. So I kind of feel a little bit bad for him right about now.
A lot of the reason why he's actually dead right now is because the switch didn't work, because Ezreal and Janna did not do a great job at top lane against Rumble, and it backfired, and Jace is the one that's suffering right now. So this is going to be the second tower at bot lane more than likely falling here. Jarvan, in fact, rather going in for the engage, so they may not pick this one up after all. They don't have a great deal of CS around there. Here comes Jace from the side. They're going to have to back off. The tower will survive just for a couple minutes longer, but I feel that Jace is trying his best. As you said, he's not feeding, he's not making a great deal of mistakes. The only thing I would maybe mention to him is that maybe a couple more wards might keep him alive, but even then, they're going to get dived from the Cataclysm and Diana. Diana's so strong, Jace is trying his best, knocking them back. Here comes Jarvan with the flag and drag, and that is yet another kill on Diana, who goes on a killing spree. 3-0, they pick up that tower, and the global goal difference right now at about 8k. And after 17 minutes, Stress, that is just simply massive.
Yeah, it's a tricky position now for tRICKED. Apologies for the horrendous pun that I completely was not expecting. That sentence started to come out, and then I realized halfway through. Yeah, I don't know whether I'll go so far as to say that Jace isn't feeding. I think that would be a little too forgiving right now. But 0 and 5. As you said, a lot of it's to do with how the top lane or bot lane performed in this case. And it's just kind of every time he's allowed HeimerdingersCollosi to catch him out, they've done so. And that's a sign of a team that really aren't going to let their opponents get away with anything. They're really not taking this lightly at all. They're making sure they keep on top of everything. And I don't know, I'm not sure whether we'll see this type of play out of tRICKED if it ends up happening that they end up on the red side for game number 3. It's not really working out all that well. You can see Extinct and Maluno are already deep into enemy territory, and it looks like they're going to drop the first kill, and they were pretty much all fighting for that as well. tRICKED ending up letting that go to Jez's, so maybe they can do something with that. That was a shutdown, and they did take an extra 432 gold from that kill.
Yeah, this is something we see quite a lot of teams do. When they're a long way ahead, they assume they're invulnerable and can just basically do whatever they want. And it was a bit of a mistake there to dive onto Jez's on Ahri, because of course the Spirit Rush is going to be awesome. The Cataclysm has came in on top of the Equalizer, as expecting Champion Select doing a lot of damage. Trashy can't do a great deal here. Rumble's going to be jumping on towards Jez's. They know the Spirit Rush is down. Nice eye of the Storm from Janna and the Monsoon as well. Will Jez's be able to escape this one? No, the Electro Harpoon flying into Jez's face, but Yamato Cannon will fall down. Ezreal picks up that kill, now going to be turning on towards Kazimierz, the substitute for this game. He will get finished off too. So Nezreal has managed to pick up a kill and 2 assists, so maybe there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We are still into very much the early stages of the game, Stress. We've seen comebacks from this position and worse before.
Oh yeah, definitely, although Nezreal steps out ahead of the minion wave, ends up going down. And again, just a little unfortunate, and wow, the damage that just came out from Extinct. Then Freeze is catching on as well for a kill of his own on towards Nautilus, and I thought for a second tRICKED might have been able to take down that mid turret. There's the ace in the hole. He's actually going to chunk Yellow Kratz for half of his health. That's a significant amount of damage, even onto a support before 20 minutes into the game. And as that time is ticking up, if you're tRICKED Esports, or do you start thinking, do we type that /FF and just get into game 2, let this one clear out of our minds?
Yeah, I honestly believe it depends on the team, because some players get very emo if they're losing, especially in this kind of fashion. Their heads start to drop and they start doubting themselves and their teammates, and maybe there's some flame going over to Nesrelas here, even though, as we said before, it wasn't really his fault. So it depends on the team. I don't personally know tRICKED Esports very well myself, but I think they're probably going to want to play this out a little bit longer, just to see what happens, because as we just said before, that, well, crushing five-man invade onto the faces of tRICKED Esports in mid from HeimerdingersCollosi, they have a chance of bringing this one back, but they're going to have to play really smart. They're going to have to turtle it up and hope that Jace can catch up, because a pickaxe, a vampiric scepter, and a tear of the goddess at 21 minutes on Jace is brutal. Like, he is barely doing any damage right now.
Yeah, no mobility either. All he's got for extra movement speed is that acceleration gate. No boots out yet. Still even holding on to those health potions to try and get himself a little bit more survivability under the fire. It's just a game that I think tRICKED are going to want to forget right now. They can end up getting back into this, but you saw them pressure that mid tower. Didn't end up going well because the rest of HeimerdingersCollosi went in on it. Here goes Maluno on towards Trashy. And again, 2v1 out in that jungle and pretty much melt away a Nautilus, and that's not something that normally happens very easily.
Very true. Oh, you do have the Equalizer coming down towards Niels and also Elocrats being forced to flash away. Both of them actually burning flash, and well, that's job done from HeimerdingersCollosi's perspective. 2 flashes down. In the meantime, Caitlyn does pick up the kill on Ari in mid, and that's going to be another tower down. And just to touch upon that question that you asked before, whether they should throw in the towel or be thinking about it, there will come a point where playing on will just damage their egos. And League of Legends is definitely a confidence game. You have to feel good. Oh my god, Nesrelas has just been poked down so heavy. Maluno comes in to pick up the pieces. That was... well, words escape me, Stress. That was just scary. Maluno is trying his best. Wild Growth has been popped on him. Flag and drain away. Here comes Diana from the side, though. So, in a strange twist of fate, Extinct and Maluno switch places, and Extinct is just going to be going massive on towards the opposition. Elocrats does not have a flash, so here comes Jovan from the back. But can he afford to tower dive? I don't think so. Still, though, all that being said and done, Inhib Tower is going down at a rapid rate.
Yeah, the old bait and switch. You think you're going in on a Javan on half health, gets instantly replaced by a Diana on full health, and that was kind of what I was expecting to see. There is the surrender vote coming out for tRICKED, and that is not the same tRICKED we saw yesterday, or yeah, it was yesterday that they played. Yeah. It's not the same tRICKED that we saw yesterday. Hopefully they can bounce back in for game number 2, but HeimerdingersCollosi looking very impressive here.
Yeah, very much. So, we're going to wait for the next game to kick off, guys. There isn't a great deal to analyze about that matchup. Nesrelas got camped. The switch worked out very well for HeimerdingersCollosi with the Lulu Caitlyn poke comp at the bot lane. So when you rejoin us, we'll be live into game number 2, and hopefully tRICKED Esports can have a fair crack at it. We'll be right back.